In January last year, a multi-millionaire biohacker, Bryan Johnson, posted his 19-year-old son's nighttime erection data on Twitter to brag about his family's biological youth.
I want to argue that the opposite should be true. My name is Bryan Johnson. I've been spending millions of dollars creating an anti-aging protocol.
4 months later, a hot mic at a military parade in Beijing captured a nuclear-armed autocrat, Vladimir Putin, quietly telling his Chinese counterpart, Xi Jinping, that biotechnology would soon allow them to replace their internal organs, achieve absolute immortality, and rule forever. We are currently witnessing the birth of a bizarre multi-billion-dollar psychological crisis at the absolute highest echelons of global power. From the private clinics of Silicon Valley to the high-security laboratories of the Kremlin, the global elite have become consumed by a singular, desperate fixation. They are trying to buy, hack, and coerce their way out of dying. On paper, they claim this is for the glorious advancement of human health. But when you strip away the slick marketing and dig into the actual data, you find a chaotic house of lies built on unproven science, predatory grifts, cosmetic illusions, and systemic paranoia. Today we're going to expose the hidden architecture of the longevity movement and the terrifying delusion of the men who believe they are too rich to decay. To understand the systemic rot inside this movement, we have to start with its most visible public evangelist, Bryan Johnson. Johnson has built a massive global following by claiming he is a pure, data-driven science experiment, the most measured man in human history, running a protocol designed purely to reverse human aging. He routinely looks into cameras and tells his millions of followers that he has no financial incentive, that he isn't here to sell you anything, and that his Don't Die movement is practically a gift to humanity. It is an incredibly compelling narrative. It is also an absolute lie. Despite his massive wealth from selling his tech company to PayPal, Johnson's longevity crusade is an aggressively monetized corporate enterprise.
Million or billion?
You made $1 billion?
Well, I sold my company for 800 million.
For how much?
800 million.
You sold a company for 800 million?
I did.
He funnels his audience into buying overpriced processed meals, lifestyle jewelry, and literal digital NFTs. But the real danger isn't the commercialization, it's the systemic lack of basic product integrity. Johnson aggressively markets his $325 a month blueprint stack as a completely vegan protocol. Anyone with basic nutritional knowledge knows that a strict long-term vegan diet requires external vitamin B12 supplementation to prevent permanent neurological damage, chronic fatigue, and heart palpitations. Johnson promised his followers that his essential capsules provided this exact critical nutrient. A skeptical user on the official Blueprint community decided to look at the third-party certificate of analysis posted on Johnson's own website. The laboratory data revealed something horrifying. The capsules contain absolutely zero detectable amounts of vitamin B12. For nearly 8 months, the self-proclaimed most measured man in history was selling a premium health stack to trusting vegans that lacked the most basic vital nutrient required to keep their nervous systems from degenerating. When the community revolted, pointing out that the capsules also contained 3 times the promised amount of selenium, causing toxic spikes and documented health issues in users, how did this transparent, data-driven team respond? They didn't fix the formulation immediately. They quietly wiped every single laboratory certificate from their website entirely, replacing them with a vague coming soon placeholder. This is a man who put out highly produced videos viciously trashing his competitors for being overpriced and unvouched for, claiming that his enterprise was the only one you could trust because he posted the raw data. Yet, when independent eyes looked at his newly re-added certificates, they discovered his custom cocoa powder contained heavy metal cadmium levels, so dangerously high it couldn't legally be sold across the European Union. The data isn't driving the protocol, the marketing is driving the data. The core deception of the tech longevity movement is the illusion of natural optimization. Bryan Johnson insists his ivory white skin, full head of hair, and biological metrics are the pure, unadulterated result of his lifestyle protocol. He explicitly states that he does absolutely nothing for his physical appearance, claiming his evolving look is just the passive side effect of data and science.
And we've just followed the data and the science. And so when you see my appearance evolve, it's just we're following data and science. We do nothing about appearance like that is proactive.
Once again, the reality is a masterclass in doublespeak. Consider the hair. Johnson released a viral video viewed by millions claiming he had naturally reversed his graying hair and baldness without commercial dyes. But within that exact same video, he admitted to using chemical formulations called GR7 and May Raki. His community immediately exposed the trick. These aren't cellular rejuvenators, They are formulations containing metal salts and henna extracts that chemically stain the hair shaft from the root over time, giving it a dull, oversaturated artificial tint. To combat baldness, he uses minoxidil, the active ingredient in Rogaine. He leaves out the critical medical detail that minoxidil carries documented severe cardiovascular risks, including irregular heartbeats, chest pain, and rapid fluid retention. He is willingly taking a drug that strains his heart purely to maintain a youthful hairline for his YouTube thumbnails. It gets worse when you look at his internal chemistry. When his extreme caloric restriction naturally crushed his testosterone to the level of a 70-year-old man, the quote-unquote healthiest man on earth had to rely on chemical adroderm TRT patches to keep his hormones normal. When he later claimed he successfully transitioned off TRT, prominent medical professionals like Dr. Paul Saladino publicly challenged him to post his basic pituitary blood markers, his LH and FSH levels, to prove his body was actually producing it naturally. Johnson claimed on podcasts that he had the data. Yet, years later, these specific markers remain suspiciously missing from his public health profile. But his crowning achievement, the metric he boasts about on almost every single media appearance, is that his nighttime erections match the biological intensity of an 18-year-old. He calls this the ultimate unfakeable default representation of cardiovascular health. Except you can fake it, and he does. Tucked away in his medical disclosures is the admission that he takes a daily dose of tadalafil. Tadalafil is the active pharmaceutical ingredient in Cialis, a high-powered erectile dysfunction medication designed specifically to relax blood vessels and artificially force blood flow. This is the equivalent of a heavily enhanced bodybuilder looking a teenager in the eye, telling them that they can achieve a 300-pound bench press naturally if they just buy their branded whey protein while secretly injecting anabolic steroids behind closed doors. He even extended this optimization theater to his own leaderboard, the Rejuvenation Olympics. Archival web records show that when independent competitors ranked higher than Johnson, his team suddenly executed a quiet site redesign, altered the algorithmic ranking metrics, and conveniently pushed Johnson into first place right before a major Wall Street Journal profile went live. This isn't a search for eternal life. It is an unhinged vanity project engineered to protect a hyper-fragile ego. But if you think the Silicon Valley version of this optimization pathology is unhinged, you need to look at what happens when this exact same delusion scales from a tech multimillionaire into a nuclear-armed dictator. Welcome to Russia's $26 billion state initiative, New Health Preservation Technologies. Vladimir Putin is currently entering his 8th decade of life. For decades, his entire political legitimacy has been predicated on projecting the calculated image of an ageless, hyper-masculine strongman, riding horses shirtless, playing ice hockey, and displaying physical endurance as a proxy for absolute state authority. But biological decay is the only political opponent you cannot poison, imprison, or eliminate. As his circle of ruling elites cross into their 70s, the Kremlin has turned anti-aging research into a massive, heavily funded national priority. The scale of this obsession became glaringly transparent when a hot mic captured Putin enthusiastically explaining to Chinese President Xi Jinping that biotechnology would soon allow them to achieve immortality through continuous organ replacement. This isn't science fiction. It is an active state directive under the command of Deputy Science Minister Denis Sekerinsky. Russian state laboratories have been ordered to deliver breakthroughs on two terrifying fronts: 3D printing living human tissue layer by layer and xenotransplantation, the literal cultivation of human-compatible organs inside the bodies of genetically engineered mini-pigs. Their official mandated deadline to achieve full human organ replacement is 2030. And who did Putin appoint to oversee this multi-billion-dollar quest for immortality? He didn't choose independent international scientists. He placed it entirely in the hands of his inner circle. His eldest daughter, endocrinologist Maria Vorontsova, and Mikhail Kowalczyk, a Soviet-era nuclear physicist who has woven the entire longevity program into bizarre Kremlin wartime ideology. This is where the software brain of the tech biohacker perfectly merges with the total paranoia of an autocrat. We are talking about a man so acutely terrified of biological contamination and physical decline that during the pandemic, he He forced world leaders and visitors to walk through custom disinfection tunnels and undergo 2 weeks of strict isolation just to sit at the opposite end of an absurdly long hyper-sanitized table. He reportedly flirted with extreme cryotherapy, standing naked in chambers cooled to minus 170 degrees Fahrenheit, and spent years taking peptide-based therapies derived from calf tissue under the guidance of his personal gerontologist Vladimir Kavinson. Kavinson publicly claimed that humans were biologically engineered to live to 120 and insisted that keeping Putin biologically alive was a matter of national security. The supreme irony? Kavinson died in 2024 at the age of 77, failing his own metric by over 40 years. This exposes the fundamental structural breakdown of Russia's $26 billion project. Unlike longevity research backed by Western billionaires, which faces intense peer review and public scrutiny, the Kremlin's program exists in total sanctioned isolation. It has produced virtually zero peer-reviewed scientific papers in recognized international journals. As exiled Russian scientists have openly admitted, when an autocrat controls the funding and demands a cure for death, you don't give him real science. You tell him exactly what he wants to hear to protect your budget and your life. The entire $26 billion apparatus is a ghost machine fueled by sycophantic lies. Step back and look at the macro picture. The Silicon Valley biohacker and the autocratic dictator are running the exact same psychological script. They both suffer from a profound narcissistic inability to accept the democratic reality of human mortality. Bryan Johnson attempts to conquer it by turning his life into an optimization spreadsheet, monitoring his wood, buying NFTs, and feeding his body like a line of code while pumping himself full of Cialis and hair dye to maintain the illusion. Vladimir Putin attempts to conquer it through raw state coercion, diverting billions of dollars into secretive labs, treating living mini pigs as a biological arts factory, and ordering his daughter to find a genetic loophole to keep him in power indefinitely. They are desperate to make themselves completely legible to the machine, believing that if they can control the database, they can control time. But reality has a way of correcting the humans. While Putin pours $26 billion into futuristic gene therapy treatments for himself and his inner circle, the actual nation he rules is collapsing under some of the harshest health metrics in the developed world. The average male life expectancy in Russia currently languishes at a staggering 68 years, far below the West. His citizens are dying in their 60s from systemic healthcare failure, while their leader builds a multi-billion-dollar fortress to print himself a new liver. The ultimate truth of the longevity movement is that it is built on foundational terror of powerlessness. These men have conquered markets, built monopolies, crushed political rivals, and accumulated unimaginable wealth. They are accustomed to a world where every single variable can be bought, optimized, or coerced into submission. The next time you see a billionaire selling you a $325 stack to live forever, or an autocrat claiming his scientists are on the verge of engineering immortality, recognize it for what it truly is. It isn't the future of human health. It is just the final desperate outcry of powerful men realizing that in the end, even power has an expiry date. Death is the ultimate catalyst for human progress. It is the great renewer, clearing out the old to make room for the new, forcing us to create things of actual value while we are here. We only appreciate the warmth of summers because we know that the winters are coming. If it were summer forever, the heat would just burn the world to ash. The same is true for our own stories. Life only carries weight, beauty, and meaning because we know with absolute certainty that it will end someday. I'm Balaji, and this is just how I see it. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, and subscribe to my channel. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.